Alright, what's happening, y'all? It's your boy Rico from RicoScores, and apparently the Washington Commanders have the best linebacker group out of the entire NFL. We're going to dive into who feels that way. Just to let you know, it's somebody that's not attached to the Commanders anyway whatsoever. No bias towards, against, or for the Commanders. Just a guy that's breaking down and loves football. Also, Frankie Luvu is the second best linebacker out of the entire NFL. That's another guy that has no bias towards, for, or against the Washington Commanders that said that as well. So we're going to do a deep dive into our linebacker group. We got to dive into whether Pro Football Focus agrees, a lot of other websites like Pro Football Network and those different types of guys. We'll really dive into whether our linebacker group really is that good. Did we go from worst to first that quickly just in one off season? But before we dive into all of that, make sure you stiff arm that like button, stiff arm the subscription button, and stiff arm the bell next to that subscription button so you get notification each and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one. Make sure you stay tuned for all of the content, man. I really appreciate y'all for staying patient. Just been busy, but I'm making sure that I come out with something at least every waking day. So this was coming out later than I expected, but I'm still making sure I get this one out there to y'all. Really appreciate y'all staying patient. Again, we do not have a Commanders practice. We're probably not going to get any major Commanders news until we get closer to that July 29th training camp day one. Can't wait for that. Can't wait to break down practice. I just can't wait for Commanders practice, just period, even just as a fan, because I'm just so excited to see Jaden Daniels and those guys in pads and we get to full contact and things like that. Then we have joint practices on the way as well. We have so many position group competitions and I have so many different video ideas that I have enough content to come out with at least one video a day. So make sure y'all stay tuned. Without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into this video. Let's get it. Adam. All right, so all of this started when Doug Farrar, who's like just a general NFL analyst, he typically does a lot of draft coverage. Like whenever we were doing the draft, he even had breakdowns for people that to the point that we're getting to the undrafted guys, even some guys that I didn't even exactly hear about, never knew that they existed. Even Doug Farrar at least had like a little paragraph on each of those guys. So this is just a pure football guy, no attachment to the Commanders, not a Commanders fan, not a Commanders beat writer, none of that. He put out an article June 11th at 7 a.m. He said, let's just start with the whole background of why this article even happened, what this article is. He said over the last 15 to 20 years, NFL defenses have transformed from base units in which 3 linebackers were the order of the day to units in which there's generally more dime than base and nickel is the new default. That amounts to a completely different idea of what the modern linebacker needs to be. In the old days of the Will, Sam, Mike designations for the 4-3 defenses and the Mike, Will, Sam, Joker and 3-4 defenses, linebackers had more specific and limited roles. Now base linebackers are half-field roamers, and in dime situations, there's only one of them on the field. Linebackers have generally become smaller and faster, and we're now to the point where your bigger safeties are virtually indistinguishable from linebackers in a physical sense. That's why I'm so excited about Jeremy Chin. Y'all don't understand. I can't wait for him to show everybody that he has all pro potential, at least Pro Bowl level potential. But continuing with Doug Farrar's article, now the best linebackers can go from the middle of the field to the flat to cover, and they can also take tight ends and slot receivers up the shoot. They're also designed to deal with run fits, hopefully with a lot of tackles for loss, and more often than not, they'll have some legitimate edge rush snaps that have nothing to do with blitzing. Of course, if that linebacker is also a great blitzer, that certainly helps. Here are Touchdown Wire's 11 best linebackers coming into the 2024 seasons, the 11 players who have defined and personified those new skill sets as well as it can be done. You can also review our previous position list for safeties, outside cornerbacks, and slot defenders. So they have the NFL's 11 best safeties, NFL's 13 best outside corners, and NFL's 11 best slot defenders. Maybe we could talk about that another day. But for now, what we're mainly here for for is the fact that Frankie Luvu was ranked second out of all linebackers in the entire NFL. And of course, this is Frankie Luvu, the extremely underrated linebacker that the Washington Commanders signed in free agency by the guy that you see behind me on your screen, Mr. Adam Peters himself, one of his first major signings that he's done since he's taken over as our general manager. He's only behind Fred Warner, who was another guy that he took part in bringing to the 49ers when he was with them. So Adam Peters has had his hand in a lot of these top linebackers that are in the NFL right now. And as a Georgia Bulldog, I just got to mention that Roquan Smith was third. But either way, most importantly for the Washington Commanders, Frankie Luvu is again second. He said Luvu ranked 11th on last year's list, just making the cut because he does top 11 linebackers, not top 15, not top 20, just top 11. Frankie Luvu barely made it into the last spot last year. That's when he really caught my eye as a do-it-all linebacker who could really be special, and in his 2023 season was quite the breakout campaign. And just to go back to what he said before we even got into the list about how in now modern NFL, where there's only two linebackers on the field, or even sometimes only one linebacker on the field, you need to be able to do everything. And that's why Frankie Luvu is second, because this is literally a guy that can do everything. Blitz, he can come off the edge if you need him to, he can cover, he can run fit, he has instincts, he's willing to just go collision course, being a heat-seeking missile against offensive linemen like guards and things like that. It's absolutely crazy. But continuing with the Doug Farrar article, the former Panther star signed a 3-year, $31 million deal with the Commanders that includes $14.625 million in guarantees, which is actually a huge steal. Again, he's ranked the second best linebacker in all of football. Even if he was only top 20, that's a steal in money. That's absolutely ridiculous. Shouts out to Adam Peters and company for somehow pulling that off. And he's earned that after a year in which he had 7 sacks, 20 total pressures, 84 solo tackles, 10 tackles for losses, 47 stops, and 2 forced fumbles. In coverage, Luvu allowed 38 catches on 51 targets, for 371 yards, 240 yards after the catch, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, 5 pass breakups, and an opponent passer rating of 107.6. Luvu did all of this on a defense that didn't present a ton of star power around him either. And that's a great point too. I mean, he probably would have even way better statistics if at least there were just other competent defenders around him, especially like in the linebacker group. And continuing with the article, now that he's with Dan Quinn in the nation's capital, we could see even a higher level from Frankie Luvu. As much as anybody on this list, Luvu brings a fully realized skill set in which he's at or near the top at so many things. He attacks from the line of scrimmage like a legitimate edge defender, and he's a real pain when covering opposing receivers all over the field. And so then Doug Farrar, when he made this article again June 11th, but he has some clips and some tweets from June 10th before he released this article pointing out a few things that Frankie Luvu does well. In this one clip, he said that Frankie Luvu had a major uptick in performance in 2023 to the point where you could credibly argue that he was the NFL's second best linebacker. This is before he officially just went out and said it, that he was the best linebacker. In another tweet, he said if you were going to catch the ball against Frankie Luvu in coverage last season, he certainly wasn't going to make it easy. CeeDee Lamb can verify. That's when he put this clip here. And remember that Dan Quinn, the last day of mandatory minicamp practice just a few days ago, he talked about how Jeremy Chin, Quan Martin, and Frankie Luvu's versatility are going to be huge for this defense and how excited he is. And he specifically said about Frankie Luvu, I know he was very versatile. I knew that he was a great linebacker, but I didn't expect this type of thing. Just so far, in early offseason practices, we haven't even gotten to training camp yet. We've just had rookie mini camps, voluntary OTAs, and mandatory mini camps. And Dan Quinn, with the last 2 voluntary OTAs and mandatory mini camps, the little that he's seen of Frankie Luvu, he's already saying, man, like based off of the film and the reason that we signed him, we knew what we were getting. We knew we were excited about him, but he's even exceeded those expectations that we had for when we got him and why we got him. So that has me even more excited because, again, going back to the point that Doug Farrar said now going to a Dan Quinn system where he's going to have better players around him compared to what he dealt with in Carolina last year. He should be even better and more productive going into this season than he was last year, which led to Doug Farrar having him second on the list. And I mean, basically, there's a chance that he could be the best linebacker in football, according to Doug Farrar's logic. But how do other NFL position group ranking websites feel about Frankie Luvu and the top linebackers just overall? Well, Pro Football Focus has him ranked 11th, which still great, but that's 9 whole spots lower than what Doug Farrar had him. But that's because he had an 80.0 overall grade. So this is just purely based off of grades. This is not just Pro Football Focus's idea of like who the best linebackers are going into the 2024 season. These are literally just their highest graded linebackers in order by grade from the previous 2023 season. They have Frankie Luvu 11th. They said Luvu concluded the year with the highest Pro Football Focus pass rushing grade, 90.1 from a linebacker, while also finishing as one of just 14 linebackers to surpass 100 pass rush snaps this season. The Panthers backer generated 19 total pressures, including a position-leading 6 Pro Football Focus sacks. And while we're here, also on that list is Bobby Wagner at 7 with an 82.4 grade. Again, this is just ranked purely off of grade. That's it. They said the future Hall of Famer is still producing massive results after 12 seasons, even setting a career high 91.5 Pro Football Focus run defense grade this past season. So Pro Football Focus felt like last year was his best run defense year out of his entire career, which is absolutely insane. They also go on to say Wagner's instincts and fearless tackling ability have become emblematic of his elite play, amassing over 184 total tackles this season, most in the NFL. Perhaps more impressively, the savvy veteran totaled just a 5% missed tackle rate, the best among linebackers with at least 100 tackles. You could argue Bobby Wagner was the best linebacker out of the entire NFL last year, at least at stopping the run, which is absolutely incredible. And though that list is just out of 20 linebackers, so technically 2 top 11 linebackers based on what they did last year in 2023. But how about Pro Football Focus, and how do they feel about heading into the 2024 season? Well, actually, they have them a little bit lower now. They have Bobby Wagner 20th and Frankie Luvu 21st. They said, well, Wagner is about to turn 34 and has just one season with a Pro Football Focus coverage grade above 70 since 2018. But he remains one of the best run defenders in football. He has earned a 90 plus Pro Football Focus run defense grade in 3 of the past 4 seasons and 6 of the past 8. Then they say Frankie Luvu, while he is somewhat limited in coverage, and again, he's ranked 21st, 1 spot behind Bobby Wagner. Maybe that was just laziness. Let's just go ahead and throw the 2 Commanders linebackers in there just real quick, back to back. Go ahead and get them out the way. But they said, while he is somewhat limited in coverage with his 67.7 Pro Football Focus coverage grade in 2023, the high mark of his career, Luvu has become one of the better run defenders over the past 3 seasons and is an effective blitzer. He racked up 20 or more pressures in each of the past 2 seasons. But how about Pro Football Network? When they rank linebackers, and this is not necessarily like a what they did in 2023 thing, this is more so a ranking of what they'll be going into the 2024 season. They have Frankie Luvu 7th. They said the only linebacker in our top 10 to change teams this offseason, Frankie Luvu, joined the Commanders after starting his career with the Panthers. So if you're talking about the top 10, TJ Edwards, Bobby Okereke, Dre Greenlaw, Frankie Luvu, of course, CJ Mosley, Quincy Williams, Demario Davis, Matt Milano, Roquan Smith, Georgia Dog, and Fred Warner number 1. I'm pretty sure most of these lists, if not all, have Fred Warner number 1. But I think that is interesting that Frankie Luvu, out of this list that the Pro Football Network has, is the only one to change teams. So linebackers, great ones at least, typically aren't being let go by their teams or allowed to leave. They're going to figure out how to keep them. They're going to pay them whatever money they need to, because great linebackers don't just come off of trees. And so I thought it was really interesting that the Commanders did find a way to steal one of the better linebackers in the NFL from the Panthers this offseason. And then we didn't even have to pay him a lot of money. He just wanted to go to a team with a vision and at least a light at the end of the tunnel. Right now, who knows what the Panthers' future holds for them. He said Luvu's prowess as a blitzer made him one of the best scheme talent fits of free agency, and we can't wait to see how he's deployed in Dan Quinn's defense. And people are going to keep bringing up Dan Quinn's defense because that is a thing. He's one of the most creative minds in all of football when it comes to the defensive side of the ball. Joe Wood Jr., our defensive coordinator, is right with them. Their vision, the passion that they have for this team, the mentality that they want, Frankie Luvu is perfect for that. Washington also needs locker room leadership after years of turmoil. Luvu is a former undrafted free agent who spent the first 4 years of his NFL career as a backup. He's now earned 2 NFL extensions. So this is a guy that knows what it's like to work from the bottom and climb his way all the way up to the top. This is a guy that you never have to worry about being lazy. And then if you're just looking for Bobby Wagner, just to know on this same list, he's 17th. But after they get to Drew Tranquill of the Kansas City Chiefs, down 16 all the way down, they don't have any descriptions for them. Bobby Wagner just missed it by 2 spots. And then you also have TexansWire.usatoday.com. When they ranked the linebackers, they had Bobby Wagner 7th, and then they had Frankie Luvu 10th. So they feel like we have 2 top 10 linebackers in the NFL, which takes me to the second half of this video. Probably the most interesting part of this video. ESPN's Mike Clay, again, another person that has no attachment to the Commanders whatsoever. He doesn't prefer them. He doesn't hate them in any reason. This is just a purely neutral party here. Mike Clay of ESPN has the Commanders linebacker group ranked number 1 out of the entire NFL league, even ahead of the 49ers with Fred Warner and Dre Greenlaw. I mean, shouts out to Adam Peters for helping the 49ers put that together, because he was given partial credit for Fred Warner, but he was given full credit for drafting Dre Greenlaw. So Adam Peters had a lot to deal with that. Now he came to the Commanders, and even though he had to grow it here through free agency rather than what he did through the draft for the 49ers, to go from arguably the best linebacker group in the NFL last year to going to the Commanders and putting together the best linebacker group in the NFL in the 2024 season, just having the best linebacker group back-to-back seasons with 2 different teams, maybe that shows that it's more Adam Peters than anybody else. Who knows? But either way, you have Bobby Wagner, Frankie Luvu, Jamin Davis, Mykal Walker, and Jordan McGee in this group, according to ESPN's Mike Clay. And just to let you know, for comparison reasons, the Giants are ranked 18th, the Cowboys are ranked 25th, and the Eagles are ranked 30th. I love to hear it, man. Absolutely love to hear it. And when you're looking at the group, here's actually, if you want to see an image and a representation of the list that he has and the names that he has them, here you go right here. Again, we are number 1. Yes, you heard it right. Number 1. You can see it on the screen right now. The best linebacker group in the NFL, according to ESPN's Mike Clay. And again, you see the Giants all the way down there at 18 with Bobby Okereke, Micah McFadden, Isaiah Simmons, Matthew Adams, and Darius Massall. It's crazy the career arc of Isaiah Simmons coming out of Clemson to what he is now. I mean, he's still talented, but boy, I thought he was one of those ones that was next up when the Cardinals got him. I'm not gonna lie. And then again, you have the Dallas Cowboys 25th with, I mean, aging Eric Kendricks, and one of the very few free agency moves that they made. He was supposed to sign somewhere else, and then the Dallas Cowboys somehow slipped in there and somehow stole him when it was actually time to put pen to paper. That was a crazy situation. And even then, they still only have the 25th ranked linebacker group. And then you have the Philadelphia Eagles all the way down there at 30 with Devin White, what we thought he would be a couple of years ago, Nakobe Dean, my Georgia Bulldog, coming out of the draft. Then you have Zach Bond, Oren Burks, and they're still the same team that took Jeremiah Trotter Jr., and they're ranked 30th. Hey, man, more power to him, man. And what's even crazier is that you could even argue that we were 32nd dead last year. We had 2 former linebackers as our head coach and defensive coordinator and completely neglected the position, which led to us having arguably the worst linebacker group in the NFL. Now it's the best. I mean, there were so many good linebackers that we even just passed up on in the draft. Maybe it's because they were former linebackers that they got arrogant, maybe a little cocky, and thought that they could just make great linebackers out of anybody. Well, it backfired majorly. They showed that they could not make great linebackers out of anybody whatsoever. And back to my main point, we probably went from having the worst linebacker group in the NFL to arguably the best, according to Mike Clay, literally the best in the NFL in just a few months. That's crazy. Shouts out to Adam Peters, Dan Quinn, and all of those guys for doing what they could to help turn this place into a top free agency destination, because we wouldn't have have the top linebacker group in the NFL if we weren't a top free agency destination. If there were any proof that you needed that the Commanders are now a top free agency destination, look at our linebacker group, because it's not like we drafted these guys. The only guy that we drafted in this linebacker group is Jordan Magee, and I'm very high on him. We're going to talk about him soon, but I do want to address the fact that the only problem with us being ranked number 1 in this list is the fact that Jamin Davis seems to be making a full switch to edge rusher right now. I wouldn't necessarily call him an off-ball linebacker. So I hope Mike Clay didn't give us the number 1 spot because of Jamin Davis. I doubt it, to be honest. I don't think that Jamin Davis was like the reason that we were ranked number 1 by him. But with how close the margins probably were for him when he was doing these rankings, I wonder if Jamin Davis just barely gave us the edge over some of the other linebacker groups that came in second or third place, if you know what I'm saying. So I know Frankie Luvu and Bobby Wagner are the vast majority of the reason that he put us first. But with the flashes that Jamin Davis has shown over the past couple of years, Mike Clay may have liked Jamin Davis even more than us fans do of the Washington Commanders. So who knows? So I wonder, like, if you take Jamin Davis out of that group, does he still have us ranked number 1 is my question. But no matter what, at least we know that our linebacker core went from arguably one of our biggest weaknesses on the team to arguably one of our greatest strengths on the team. And again, just one offseason. That is not up for a debate as well. Like the level of versatility and athleticism and experience as well that we gained just from going from Cody Barton and David Mayo to Bobby Wagner and Frankie Luvu alone is crazy. Again, Jamin Davis, if you still want to count him as our linebacker, I went from by far, easily, no debate, our best linebacker in 2023 to now, at best, our third best linebacker, if you even count him as a linebacker at this point. And then I'm personally very high on Jordan Magee, not gonna lie. Like, and I truly believe that he'll show people that he's a steal in the 5th round. His elite athleticism, one of the most athletic linebackers in the entire draft. Depending on who you ask, I think Next Gen Stats had him as literally the most athletic linebacker out of the entire draft. He's coming in with instincts. He's coming in with tackling, coverage ability that he can play day 1 with. I'm super excited about how he's going to fit in this scheme and everything. I think he's going to play and contribute immediately week 1. He may not necessarily start, of course. Again, we're only going to have 2 linebackers on the field the vast majority of the time. But whenever we do have a third on, whenever we're like in obvious passing down situations, Jordan Magee will probably play sooner than you think and impress you more than you think. And also for like just this coaching staff that we've assembled. Let's just start there. With Dan Quinn as our head coach, Joe Witt Jr. as our defensive coordinator, and Ken Norton Jr. as our linebackers coach. Just the difference between the coaching staff that we had last year, just in general for the entire team. But let's just focus on linebackers alone. The guys that were responsible for the linebackers last year compared to the guys that are responsible for the linebackers this year, it's absolutely insane how much of an upgrade we just made. Not only just talent in the linebacker group, but also on the coaching staff side as well. So we should get the most out of this hyper athletic and hyper versatile linebacker group that we assembled. I'm super excited. So I would argue that this group not only has a very high floor just based off of the experience and veteran leadership that we have in the linebacker group, but also a very high ceiling because this is a very athletic and versatile linebacker group that we have here. Now, Bobby Wagner will not be here forever, of course, but I'm excited about Frankie Luvu long term, Jordan Magee long term, and whoever this elite coaching staff and front office decides to draft moving forward to add to this group. I trust them to make sure that they set this linebacker group up for future success, for consistency year in, year out, for the at least near future. And you never know. Maybe Bobby Wagner can give us 2 years instead of just this one, like a lot of us are expecting. The reason why we only gave him a 1-year deal. He's probably going to live off of 1-year deals for the remainder of his career with how old he is. But even if he doesn't, say Bobby Wagner only gives us this 1 good year and then he's just done with football, or he just falls off a cliff physically or whatever, I'm very confident in this new regime's ability to identify and develop the right linebackers to continue to get elite play out of this group as a whole. I'm not saying at all, I'm just not going to assume that we will find another Bobby Wagner in his prime Hall of Fame linebacker type of situation. Not necessarily, but I do have confidence that they will make sure this linebacker group as a whole is always playing at a high level and always in the conversations as one of the top 5 or at least at worst top 10 linebacker groups in the NFL. Again, that's coming from the front office side with the scouting, with the identifying, finding the linebackers, and then this coaching staff that we have right now to develop them and to also put them in the right situations to win and succeed as often as possible. So yeah, we got Doug Farrar out here saying that Frankie Luvu is the second best linebacker in the NFL. We have Mike Cliff, ESPN, saying that we have the best linebacker group in the NFL. And it's not only just the talent in the linebacker group, but I feel like this coaching staff deserves a lot of credit for why people are so high on this linebacker group as well. Cannot wait to see them on the field. Granted, this is just off-season talk. We got to see what actually happens when we get to week 1 in this regular season, but I can't wait. I think you're gonna see it immediately in these joint practices with the Jets, a great team. The Miami Dolphins, another great team. I feel like those were 2 great joint practices for us to land right there, because between the 3 teams that we play in the preseason, the Patriots are by far the worst. So thank goodness we don't have a joint practice with them. If we had to take 2 of the 3 preseason teams that we go against to have joint practices with, the Jets and the Dolphins were the easiest answers that you can have. And I can't wait to use those teams as measuring sticks, because if you remember going against the Ravens last year, we had flashes, we showed some talent, we looked better than I expected in those Ravens joint practices, but we were so hyped in the offseason and training camp. We were like, okay, we're looking good. We went against the Ravens and they exposed a lot of the issues that we had. They exposed a lot of the issues that ended up showing up throughout the regular season as well. That's why you like to go against great teams in joint practices during the offseason. So I think the Jets and the Dolphins will be perfect, especially since the Jets are so defensive heavy and so much great talent on defense. And then also Aaron Rodgers healthy. If Aaron Rodgers is even showing up to practice, their offense has the potential to be elite as well. And then you have the Dolphins, just speed, and more speed. And I feel like those are 2 completely different play styles and mentalities of teams, but both great. And I feel like it's great to get the best of both of those worlds and just to see where we're at. Like, even before we get to the regular season, where are we right now? So I can't wait to see how we measure up, especially with this linebacker group against those offenses. Super excited. But yeah, man, that's the end of this video. Please get in the comment section, let me know how you feel about everything discussed in the video. Please stiff arm that like button, stiff arm the subscription button, and stiff arm the bell next to that subscription button so you get notification each and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one. Make sure you stay tuned for all of the content. Again, I got y'all, even if it's later than I expect. I'm working on a video a day. Make sure y'all stay tuned, because again, I have so many video ideas. And of course, let me know in the comment section of this video, how do you feel about the topics that we discussed today, man? How do you feel about Frankie Luvu being the second best linebacker in the NFL? And how do you feel about the Commanders being the best linebacker group in the NFL, even over the San Francisco 49ers? Even the fact that Adam Peters had a lot to deal with the 49ers second best linebacker group in the NFL, and now the Commanders #1 linebacker group in the NFL. Let me know how you feel about even just that aspect of it. How do you feel about this coaching staff and what they'll do with this linebacker group and this linebacker talent that we have right now? How do you feel about Jordan McGee? Are you higher on him like I am compared to most people? Let me know all of your feelings about all of that in the comment section. Again, I'm gonna try my best to read and reply to as many comments as possible. Eventually, when I find some time, I'm gonna try to read and reply to as many comments as I can, even going back several videos from like weeks ago and just working my way back up. So I really appreciate y'all patience. Do not leave this video out without leaving a like, and make sure you be on the lookout for more content, because again, we don't have practice till July 29th. So even though the Commanders are pretty much going into like a 6-week dead period, Rico of Street Scores is not. I'm about to start doing more live streams and call-in shows for y'all, maybe like once every 2 weeks, maybe not even necessarily once a week, but at least once every 2 weeks. So stay tuned, be on the lookout for those. I'm working on rookie film sessions. I hope to get all of those done before we even get to training camp. So I have so many goals, so many video ideas, so much content on the way. Just stay tuned. I got y'all. Really appreciate y'all. I'm gonna catch y'all later. I'm out.